Hello again, welcome to another edition of Arts and Ideas. I'm Sue Swinand. And today we're coming to you from Anna Maria College in Paxton, Mass. And we're in their lovely Art Center gallery where we're going to be looking at the faculty show. And I have two guests today who are both in the exhibition, David Wackel and Joseph Ray, and they're going to be telling us about the exhibitions, the program here, and their work, and the work of the other artists in the show. So thank you both for joining us, and I want you to start by just telling the audience a little bit about yourself. David, could you?
Sure. I'm David Wackel. I got my MFA at Savannah College of Art and Design. I've been at Anna Maria for about 10 years as an adjunct professor, and I am administrator for art and design as well as music, and I'm preparator for the gallery here.
Oh, wow. So, and you're an active painter as well, and installational, various...
I forgot about that stuff, sure. I keep a studio down on Webster Street, and I'm an abstract painter for the most part, conceptual artist. So that's
well, your piece in this show is very conceptual. And then Joseph, what are your where are you from?
So I'm originally from upstate New York. My family and I moved here to the Worcester area when I went to grad school at Mass Art in Boston. And so since then I've been adjunct professor and a visual artist myself.
Uh-huh. And I was looking at his website, and he teaches at about 5 different places, and I was overwhelmed. Where are you teaching, and what are you teaching? And
so I teach a mix between studio arts and graphic design and some handmade paper making. But currently I'm teaching at Anna Maria, which I absolutely love, Assumption College, Lesley in Cambridge, Mass Bay Community College in Wellesley, and then at Western New England out in Springfield.
Can you imagine, if it's Tuesday, it must be Springfield. If it's Wednesday, it must be Cambridge. That's rough. That is rough.
It only gets tough when there's 2 on the same day. Yeah. 2 different places the same day. So that's
painful,
yeah.
Painful.
Sometimes a tight drive.
Now, this is your work right here, isn't it, Joe?
Yes.
And what is this series?
So this is part of an ongoing series that I've started towards the end of my graduate year. It revolves around a family story. It's a little spiritual, but most of my work is all about perception and perspective, whether it's my abstract drawings or the paintings that currently we're talking about here, these drawings also. And it's a story that my mom, her last child, Erin, passed away 7 weeks after she was born. And she was told that the child would never go to heaven because it wasn't baptized.
Oh.
Yeah, and so it was tough for my mom. But years later, my wife was pregnant and my younger sister was pregnant, and their due dates were about a month apart. And my sister went into labor 2 weeks late, and my wife went into labor 2 weeks early, and they ended up having the first grandchildren. They were both daughters born on the same day. And it was the same day as my sister Erin, her birthday. So all 3 of those kids born on the same day. So there's something like powerful and spiritual about that. And it was kind of, for my mom, it was like this huge release of
Isn't that an amazing story? My word.
Yeah.
Your poor mother.
Oh yeah, for years.
So much has changed, but that in terms of those kinds of early beliefs that we grew up with. But anyway, these are just very moving pieces, and it's a big series. But tell us about these particular ones.
So these particular ones it's handmade paper, which is something that I got into in grad school, and then charcoal, graphite, acrylic, and oil paint on there. But they reference that same story, and there's signifiers that I've used throughout the whole series that change a little bit, but they're all pretty much the same. So I always have like this arched window, which went back to the first one that was a priest with his back turned, and so like that kind of form visually for me referenced this arch that I brought into different paintings. And so like in here we have two priests with their backs to each other. For me, it's like different perspectives, different sides of the story. And so like all of these paintings and drawings reference like three sides of a story. There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the truth, right? And so we all have different perspectives about what happens.
Wow.
But there's really one, and no one knows what it is, right? It's like...
I was struck by, now you have some very large drawings that go with this series too, don't you?
Yeah.
I was struck by first of all, the power of them, but it also feels almost like archetypal images of rising up, and of course the arch with the pointed arches always ascending, or it also looked to me like angel wings, or of course it's the stained glass window shape, the lancet, but also now I'm seeing the little three circles, all these symbols you're working those symbols again and again and again.
Yeah.
And they're very powerful archetypal symbols. But,
Yeah.
Or even like the idea of growth, like a dicotyledon with one thing growing up, rising.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I mean, for me, there's very specific things that I put into each one, but I try to put it to a level of abstraction where everyone brings their own perception to it, right? And that's part of it. Like no one has the same experience. It's like looking at a rainbow. It's the same rainbow, but no one sees the same one.
But you can get the feeling and the emotion from his work, whether you know that story or not, just by the roughness of the texture. These almost look like decaying walls, and the surface of these with the collage and the raw, rubbed, abrasive charcoal, it's very expressive and formally beautiful, I think.
Well, thank you.
You also had some handmade paper works that I thought were quite interesting.
Yeah, so those were right out of graduate school. I was obsessed with making paper, and so I was making all these sheets, and I had no idea what to do with them. And so I was like, I'm just going to do some landscape paintings on them. So I took them out in the woods, and they actually became more of like a documentary of where space and place, as opposed to like a landscape painting, because they were like contour line drawings. But as I was looking around myself, above and below, and then just like making aesthetic choices.
So the line just went for a walk around
yeah.
the woods.
Yeah, they became a really fun experiment for me. I made a lot of them.
Again, they're beautiful. It looks like the line is embedded in different layers too, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, there was some...
Again, they're very physical.
Some more application of paper on top of paper, which
Yes.
I was using the paper as like a reference for like a cloud or a leaf or something, as I was drawing it in. So.
And then a very simple series of his that I loved, and he told me it was one of his very early series, was that the one with the machines.
Yes.
What was that called?
I believe it was called Obsession.
Obsessions.
Yes, Obsessions. And so for me, that was honest. That was like my first like personal experience of like making a series through abstraction. I've always been a very like still life type of rendering artist, and so like taking something and giving it a meaning and putting it in a space, and then using other objects.
Putting it there because it works well there, not because that's where it was.
Right. Yeah. Right. And trying to have that mean something, and something else means something. Having conversations.
I love those. Are charcoal too.
Yeah.
So, but you do painting as well.
Yeah.
And the paintings are in a similar theme as the series we're looking at here.
Yeah. Yep. So even the paintings and the drawings, anything that has to do with this message or the burden series, they all have the same storyline, right? And so some of them are a little more formal, and some of them are a little more aggressive looking. And so I just try to give them a different title.
I thought they were very, very, I'll use the word raw in a complimentary way, because it means not overcooked, not like bland and everything finished and done and don't bother looking again. His works seem to have so much energy and emotion to them. And I think I was saying to you before that I feel like that you're like gnawing at the surface to try to get the meaning to come out, the beneath the surface. So I find them very powerful and expressive. So now, David, these are some of your works.
Yes, this is a series called Date Due.
That was Date Due,
Yes.
as in library books.
Correct. And basically I've taken these Date Due cards and pasted them into these books, kind of in their natural habitat. And I've written different ideas on the cards with the idea that, you know, how often do you really bring your library book back on time? But also that...
Always.
Of course. But also there's an immediacy to having a date due, like you have to get it done. And these are conceptual pieces that embrace kind of the idea of beauty, of musing, of making choices. You know, you're presented with them in a grid, and there's an empty space there. Like, what's your idea? Mm-hmm. And like, people will. It's fascinating to see people view the work because they won't go like left to right or right to left. They skip around, and it's the same way that they're looking at my paintings.
Yeah.
That.
Your paintings are on grids also, aren't they? A good number of them.
Right. There's a relationship between the foreground and the background. There's a relationship between the individual components of the grid. Sometimes they feel very separate. Sometimes they feel close together. And people are always like, I like that one. Or, you know, they might see them as separate paintings sometimes instead of integrated.
Yeah.
And that made me think about choices. And that's kind of the, at least the conceptual direction that I want to go, using some more physical objects and the ideas.
I like the idea of using the physical object to get the idea across. And I think your arrangement here with the way you've used the materials and the grids on the little library cards and all, it has a nice tactile quality about it that I like, with the pages being loose and nice presentation.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at some of the other artists in the show. Well, here's a knockout piece. Whose work is this?
This is the work of Jason Travers, and he's teaching art history and painting here. I had a moment to talk with him about the work, and he had some really interesting ideas about music and how different components come together in creating harmonies, and you know, maybe like even a crescendo. You can see how the middle of it moves. This painting, the left panel, has a lot of different feelings within the different spaces that I've seen it. I saw it at AS220 where it was before here. And then the right panel is it actually came second. So he thinks of the right panel as a kind of doppelganger of the first, where you're looking at it and extracting the...
Almost like a diagram.
The form, yeah, the diagram.
Or I thought of it more like constellations, you know, where you see the little stars and then you connect the dots.
For sure.
But I love the way they relate to each other. And when you talk about music, I could think of those colors almost like harmonics, like a chord or a vibration at another level, octave or something. But they're very, they remind me of Paul Klee's magic squares, and I love the little irregular, I love the combination of the irregularity of the lines and the variations of the sort of handmade triangles that aren't perfect, and yet the geometry of the triangle. I just think it's very charming, the whole thing.
Very playful.
And nice texture too.
It really is.
Enjoyable piece. And then how about Alice Lambert? What's she?
Well, Alice Lambert is Professor Emeriti here, and she's teaching a calligraphy and design course currently. She's got two really great pieces. One is kind of like a creation myth, and the other one is a traditional figure drawing, a nude. And these are, she's really interested in that academic type of drawing.
A good basic foundations course, I would think, to
Yes.
get that study of the figure.
Yeah, she just loves investigating those things in master studies and that type of thing. So we have an example of that, and then we have an example of something that's more
And
from
so
her
you do
imagination.
lots of different kinds of courses at Anna Maria. And I know you have some graphic design pieces too.
Yes, Diane Gulveson is one of our graphic design professors, and we have some samples from her letterpress business, Kismet Press, things that she's been working on over the past few years. And we have Timmery Leary, who a lot of people will know as a teacher in Worcester. She's a graduate from here, and she's also teaching graphic design.
In the Worcester school system?
In the Worcester school system and at Anna Maria.
Wonderful. Well, and now, do you have majors in the arts then, your department?
Yes, so we have a graphic design major, we have an art therapy major, we have a studio art major, and a self-design major if you wanted to take a little bit of all of those things. People can concentrate in different areas like painting or photography.
Wonderful. So, and then let's look at a couple of others. Now we're looking at the work of Sumio Toribe.
Yes.
Want to tell us a little bit about?
Well, we have several pieces here. We have this smiley guy. He's an Ojizo-san. And the Ojizo are kind of like a baby in Japan, a baby Buddha. They are, the bib shows that they're cared for. The red color is about purity, about usually like a baby boy is associated with red.
Maybe virility or?
Yeah, sure, all of those things.
Now, are these placed out and about in the environment or?
Yes, they would be in different neighborhoods, and when sometimes like really old ones, you might see all in a row, and they could just be stones with the bib.
Ah, so the bib is like a major part of it, where that, even if it was just a stone, you would know that that was caring for the Buddha.
Yes,
Yeah.
it shows that
Okay.
they're, you know, the
Very
neighborhood or
interesting.
people are caring for it.
And the koi here. So she does ceramics, but she also does painting on paper,
Yes,
watercolor.
her main subject is watercolor on paper, and this piece here is her watercolor. It's a triptych. It shows birds with, you know, on the lake with
I love the
just around.
spontaneity of it, you know, and the impact of the black and white is very powerful too. But I love the way you can see the process of the water working on the paper. You know, it's not picked over, it's just done like with great spontaneity and panache, like nature forming itself.
Right, that's really her intent, and to make them, you know, follow the water,
Yeah.
like that whole
Yeah.
attribute of nature, and just make them available for people.
It's kind
She
of a
paints
Zen
lot.
thing too, to let the water lead and let the water do what it can do. And of course, everything comes from water. So
That's right.
it's a very, they're very nice pieces. I like them as a triptych. And then all the little birds are actually, are those painted in with like a stop out, I think she said.
Yes.
And then the big wet washes can be put right over that.
Yeah, then you can be wild after you put in those details with the stop out.
And then all the flocks and flocks of birds landing on the lake. It's
Yeah, that was you know, Sumio is my wife. We live near a lake, and this reminds me of when there were just thousands of these gulls came to the lake, more so than usual. It was a combination of different flocks, and they were all there. It was a very momentous occasion to witness, like seeing an important speech by, I don't know, like MLK or
It's
something.
very exciting to see that kind of a congregation of creatures, you know,
Yes.
with probably making a ton of noise. And well, it's a very, very nice piece. And then we also have we have a video artist. Who is that?
Yeah, we have a video artist, and her name's Jillian Anderson. She's a new faculty member, and this is her first time exhibiting with us. Her piece is part of a 48-hour project, so they had 48 hours to conceive of and film a video from beginning to end, and it had to have a storyline.
Her students,
and
you mean?
everything.
Or?
No, this was something that she decided she wanted to
her?
do. Yeah, it was a challenge.
Got it. Like setting up limits for yourself. And,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does she teach video? Or?
She teaches video here.
Good that you have that in your curriculum, you know. It's just the video is so important today.
That's right.
Yeah.
We want to be able to have video and photography, and we think they're both really important skills moving forward.
And you've brought in some sculpture too, I know, into the show, which is a terrific piece that, now, what is the title of that piece? First of all, who's the artist?
The artist is Mike Yefko.
And I know it has, the title, it has to do with caring about mending.
Yes.
If you look at it, it's a little house that's kind of floating away and out of control, but it's sort of being mended by this giant needle and thread. I like the idea. A lot of his work seemed to deal with domestic balance and healing and
yeah, I think all of those things, and he's interested in the way, you know, we're creatures on this earth, and we're using our resources, and like how much can we use? Where is that balance? Where is the balance of domestic harmony? Where is the balance of like
ecological
harmony?
Yeah.
So he really loves addressing those issues.
A lot of his work seemed to deal with the issue of balance and also domesticity. The little high chair, I think, is just, I love that piece. Yeah. And
Unruly Child, it's called.
Unruly Child, wonderful. It's perfect. The belt, you know, you have the little kid belted in, but he's going
he's going to get out of there one way or another.
He's exploding out of it with angular forms pushing in every direction. Oh, I love that piece. So I imagine he teaches sculpture then? Or?
Yes, teaches sculpture and drawing here.
I see. Okay. And when I was thinking about the sculpture, I know you have a special program running with sculpture on campus.
Yes, we started a year ago with Art in the Park, Worcester. And
like a collaboration?
A collaboration. And we want to expand the Art in the Park program to Anna Maria College. We're very pleased to have 4 of their sculptures kind of as a preliminary showing here last year, and they stayed throughout the academic year. The school approached us and said, we want sculptures here all the time, and we scrambled and got some sculptures up here.
The sculptors are probably pleased to have the work situated somewhere besides in their basement, you know?
No. Yeah.
But it's wonderful because they have this huge campus, and they look terrific, you know,
Yeah,
out in the fields. And
yeah, they're really monumental scale, and they're, you know, sometimes we need cranes and special equipment to bring them in, and all of the artists have been really gracious in letting us have them here, and in bringing.
Who are the artists? Can you name them for me? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh, sure, I can name them. The first piece that we have is Saturn, and it's James Kitchen. It's a bunch of found objects. The piece that we had last year, we had a piece by James Kitchen, and that ended up at Tumoda Day Spa. Oh. And the owner, Josue, bought that, made a special area. It's visible from Foley Stadium, or whatever that stadium's called now. And it's lit up at night. It's a brilliant piece. The second piece we have on campus, as if you're driving in to take a tour, is Phil Marshall, and his piece is called Metro. It's inspired by the businessmen at Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, and how they kind of move in and out of hustle. Yeah, all in the business
You should take
seats.
a drive out and tour the campus, because it's a beautiful time of year to look around, and you can find the sculptures too. And last 2 are?
Yeah, John Weidman. It's water sports. It's kind of a flowing sculpture, as the name suggests, and he's the founder of or co-founder of Andre's Art Institute up in New Hampshire. And that's worth a drive to go up there as well.
I think I know him, yeah.
Yeah, and then Sean Farrell has a piece called Love in a Mist, and he's taken these seed pods from different flowers and made them into these idealized large sculptural forms.
There's a beautiful seed pod called Love in a Mist.
That's right, and that's what this is.
Yeah, I want to see these too. Because these are some of my favorites. Now, this is Daryl Matsumoto, the head of your department, right?
That's right.
And so he's obviously a photographer, and I know his work deals with a little bit of narrative and sort of imagination for the viewer to get involved with the storying.
That's right. He has a large series of these, and each one of these prints is from one of the like a series of photography. So there might be a number of prints to choose from, and you can create your own narratives from choosing the prints.
This is my favorite. I like them all, but especially this one because and I agree with you that you almost don't notice the bird in the beginning. You think of it as like a little mud or snow or water or something, but that's a giant bird, cedar waxwing, lying on its side there very casually. But you start making up, like, what's going on here? You know, why is that? And then you start thinking about cages and being trapped, or who's really trapped, or what.
Right.
You know, there's so much in this image. I just...
they're all so fun to contemplate and to create your own images out of, or your own narratives around.
But I like the way this could actually be, too. It could actually happen that you would put this thing right close to the camera and have it be as big as the house, you know, where you do that kind of nice up perspective distortion kind of thing. But I love the idea of the man-made, and there's so many ideas circulating in this image. Great. What a great show. Well, thanks a lot for telling us about it. And people can go to Anna Maria's website and see your calendar. And
yeah, the calendar of events is there. It's on social web if people are familiar with that platform.
And you have the catalog from the exhibition. Is really a lovely booklet with some nice writing by Lauren Zamita, And also you can see many of the artists' works in their websites. I know Joseph Ray has a terrific website, and you have your work online in various places. So we'll hope that you'll take a look at their work, and we hope to see you again next time for another edition of Arts and Ideas.